Hello, hello.
Okay. Can somebody give me a count from the book in the back of how many people have signed?
64.
Thank you, Pastor Fred. So at this point, I'd like to call the meeting to order, the annual meeting for 2022. We have a quorum with the establishment of 64 people signing the book. We need 50. Pastor Shell, can you open us up with a prayer, please?
Done? Let us be in the Spirit. Holy God, we gather as your people, having done the work of liturgy, now doing the work of order. We ask that you preside over our conversations, that you give us the insight we need to understand the well-being of St. Paul United Church of Christ, and ears to hear one another with our hearts. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Shell. For those at home, as a reminder, you're watching over YouTube, you can text 314-565-7033, and we will get you on the list of attendance. And you can also, any votes that are taken today, you can vote to the same number. Again, that number is 314-565-7033. Okay. Next item. In the annual report, you'll see a copy of the minutes from last year's annual meeting. Are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes from last year's annual meeting? If not, I will take a motion to approve the minutes as stated in the annual report. Bill Norman, and first, a second. Andrew Hoge. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes to last year's annual meeting. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstain. Motion carried. There's also the minutes from the congregational meeting, that special congregational meeting we had in July to appoint the search committee. Are there any comments or questions to those minutes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Debbie Volmert, second. Pastor Fred. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstain. Motion carried. You got that, Charlie? Okay. At this time, I'd like to call up Gigi Connerly to discuss the 2022 financial reports.
Good morning. I'm Gigi Abbott. I'm the treasurer, serving as the treasurer this year. I would like to recognize and thank our finance committee, Shirley Bergman, Susan Hibbets, Bill Brooker, Pastor Shell, and Barb Gerstenecker. You'll see the full report within the annual report. Just a couple of items to call out from last year's expenditures. We did approve a deficit budget last year of $26,000. We ended the year a bit over that, mainly due to the costs for transition of our interim senior pastors and some increases in our utilities. There were some real positives as we ended the year. We saw trends towards the increase in attendance as well as our giving. So we ended really close to what we budgeted last year. This year, we're again putting forth a deficit budget, a bit more, $43,000. We've tried to be conservative as far as our giving. We did put forward 10% over actuals, which aligns with what we've been trending, actually a little under than what we have been trending over the last few months. We do see that we're going to have some significant increase in expenses, especially with our utilities. We've been told to project about a 25% increase in our utilities. And we are really looking into our solar gains and electricity. But last year we did not realize the amount of savings that we thought we were going to. So we kept that on trend. There also is increase in our insurance coming up next year. For salaries, we are projecting that we will be full staffed for the full of the year. We know that we are in the search process, and that might adjust our pastor salaries a little bit, but again, we tried to be on the conservative side. To kind of offset our deficit, we are budgeting for $25,500 in fundraising. Now that's over what we budgeted last year. Last year we budgeted for $15,000. So those things such as our sale that Kathleen spoke about and other events that we do throughout the year will be really important for us to meet that budget. Are there any questions? Okay. Do I ask for the motion or do you? Okay.
Thank you, Gigi. If there are no questions on the budget, I'll take a motion to approve the budget. Oh, God, you think I know her name? Thank you, Ed Nadell. Oh, it's been a long morning already. Motion by Ed Nadell to approve the budget. Do I have a second? Kathy Kruger. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Abstain. Thank you. Motion carried. Reports of boards and committees and organizations. I'm not going to read them all to you. Nobody wants to hear that. I do wish you would take some time and read these. It's been an interesting year this year. 12 months ago, the transition team was in the midst of their process, and there were some challenges in front of us. During the last 12 months, the challenges have increased, but things have gotten better. What's happened over the last 12 months? We lost an interim pastor. We gained a new interim pastor. We lost our office secretary. We gained a new office administrator. We also gained an associate pastor. Pastor Shell, Pastor Julie, and Amanda have been wonderful additions for us. Our attendance has been increasing as Gigi mentioned earlier. This has to do as much with Pastor Shell as you out there. We're becoming more welcoming as a group. We're looking past our differences. These are important things, folks. Gigi also mentioned issues with the budget Yeah, our expenses were a little higher than expected. It was to do with the interim transition. But I gotta say, the amount of money we fundraised, both to the general revenue and for other items, was incredible. And what do I mean by that? We paid for the windows and signage replacements and upgrades. We made a huge payment toward the solar fund. We, as a church, raised over $12,000 individually, plus with the matching funds from St. Paul Mission, to give Violet Nash over $22,000 toward the purchase of her van that was much needed by her. That was you guys stepping up. Your giving toward the general revenue was up over $23,000 above budget. I can't thank you enough. The consistory cannot thank you enough. The sound system has been an interesting 18 months as we transition from the old to the new. Thanks to the core group of folks that sit up in the balcony every week, making it better every week. We don't have people up here wondering what's going on anymore. Thank you. The evangelism team. At the Columbia Scarecrow Walk, thanks to the youth for the idea, the adults for helping the youth put it together. They won best use of recycled material. At the Christmas parade, the evangelism team won best reason for the season float. We had a lot of youth riding and walking in the parade. We didn't see this a year ago. These are the things that are looking better for us. The Board of Mission Stewardship, I could talk about them for an hour. Every month they bring another needy situation towards the church for helping others. And you guys meet that challenge consistently. Thank you. Some of the things to look forward to this year. Hopefully, Pastor Shell can go back to regular Sheldon. She's very much in favor of that. With the search committee active, Myron Hanna will be giving a report here shortly. And the transition team's work, we look forward to having this pastor come in and become the person to help lead us, not to lead us, but to help lead us over the next 10 to 15 years, become what we can become. Also looking forward to continued improvement in our attendance, continued improvement in our lay participation, continued support toward Little Friends. We don't talk about Little Friends very often. It is a key part of our ministry here. The Little Friends is going through a transition. Jody Talkie, the director of Little Friends, had submitted her retirement at the end of this year. We are actively pursuing a new director for Little Friends in the hopes of reinvigorating that ministry and bringing more youth to Little Friends so that they can get a different style of early childhood learning than daycare and other opportunities. So I am looking very much toward the next 12 months of continued improvement from the congregation, from the consistory, to where in 12 months I want to be able to be up here and go, that was another continued moment up. I don't want to be all the way up here. I just want to keep making chunks, moving up, so that the new pastor can, again, help lead us, and get to where we want to be. Thank you. With that, Byron, can you come up and give a short update on the search committee?
first, thank you, Dennis, for your leadership. Our search committee consists of 9 members nominated by the consistory and elected by the congregation last July. The other members of the committee are Jim Bush, Joanne Counts, Kurt Harris, Colleen Jackson, Sherry Montgomery, Keith Myers, Tiffany Riley, and Becky Trexler. We've been meeting on a regular basis since August of last year, and we've been receiving pastoral candidate profiles since last September. As of today, we have received pastoral profiles from a total of 29 candidates. The 2 most recent profiles were just received this past Friday. As indicated in my written report, all profiles are received by the committee through the Illinois South Conference. The conference confirms that each individual has ministerial standing in our denomination. The conference does not otherwise screen or recommend the applicants before sending us their profiles. Of the 29 candidates so far, 16 either expressly withdrew themselves from our consideration or simply did not respond to our messages. It's important to understand that some of these candidates who withdrew told us they did not realize they had actually included the Illinois South Conference in their search, and they did not even know where Columbia, Illinois was. So we should not assume that there is something about our church or our congregation or our community that is discouraging candidates from considering us. Each of our committee members has put in hours and hours of time in this search process. In addition to our regular meetings, we have individually studied the pastoral profiles of those candidates who actually wanted to be considered. These profiles are typically around 25 pages each. Individually, and sometimes as a group, we have also viewed multiple online sermons given by many of the candidates. Throughout this process, we have kept in mind that we are guided by the Holy Spirit and by the priorities outlined in our church profile that was prepared by the transition team. With most candidates, the committee has reached a consensus that for various reasons, the candidate simply would not be a good choice to be our senior pastor. However, we have conducted interviews with multiple candidates in whom we have a particular interest, and multiple candidates are still under consideration while we await receipt of additional profiles. I realize my comments are necessarily vague, but this is in keeping with our commitment to maintain confidentiality until we are prepared to recommend a particular candidate to the consistory and to the congregation. So please continue to pray for our committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Myron. And thank you to all 9 members of the search committee. Your work is, as you know, very important to us. And again, we're praying for you and with you to make the best choice for St. Paul. Next on the agenda was a solar power update. I'm going to cancel this portion of the agenda. We're still getting in information from both Ameren and Day and Night Solar, the companies that are helping us with the solar project. The reason we wanted to give them the update was both to talk about how much power we're generating, what that means towards savings, and how does that apply to the future, and with the new pricing that we all are seeing from Ameren for the cost of electricity. We are struggling to get all the information in I'm going to call it a usable, user-friendly method so that we can understand what we have. Mark Thompson has been giving a Pathfinder update last month and this month, and will continue to do that. He's leading the effort from the consistory. So, is there any question that I may be able to answer around the solar? Okay, good. Okay, at this time, I move forward to the elections of the boards and committees. There was a separate handout that you may or may not receive with the annual report that lists all the nominations. Thank you to the nominating committee for their hard work. Are there any other nominations from the floor? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the entire slate as written. Bruce Counts. I'll take a second. Jim Bush. I have a motion and a second to approve the slate of members for the boards and committees. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstain. Motion carried. The last item on the agenda is a proposed wording change to the bylaws. That was also on the same sheet of paper. The basic, I'm not going to read it to you, but the basic need for this, or the driver to it, was to include those folks at home, either home in nursing homes or out of town on vacation trips that happen to attend a congregational meeting through the internet and watching it. We just wanted that to be written into the bylaws so there would be no confusion in the future. Are there any questions regarding this proposed change? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. All the way in the back, Kathleen. I'll take a second. Sherry Montgomery. I have a motion and a second to approve the bylaw changes. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstain. Motion carried. I want to say that's it on my list. So at this time, I'll adjourn the annual meeting. But before we adjourn and move to the cemetery meeting, I just want to remind the 3 new members of the consistory, Rob Dane, Faye Meerman, and Diane Kleinschmidt, that we will have a short organizational meeting after the end of the cemetery board meeting down in Fellowship Hall. Thank you. Howie? Here he comes.
Good morning. First, we'll call the Evangelical St. Paul Cemetery Board annual meeting to order. We still have a quorum, and we have anybody online, or they can count towards it. Good. So it's established that we have a quorum. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the 2022 annual meeting. Those have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, I accept the motion to approve the minutes as distributed. Glenn Miller, and a second. Diane Hanna, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as distributed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes and the minutes are approved. The next item is the elections, and before doing so, I'd like to introduce the cemetery board to you. The vice president is Kurt Stump. Our secretary is Gail Miller. Also on the cemetery board is Ken Hoke, Harold Matthews, and last but not least, who's completing her second 3-year term and is term limited off of the board, Mary Lynn Harris. Those up for elections to the cemetery board are Harold Matthews for a second or a 3-year term, and also Greg Gifhorn. So those are the nominations. I'd accept a motion to elect those two to the cemetery board. Can't see all the way in the back. Larry Hoy. I guess I should put my glasses on for this. And a second, please. Ken Hope. It's been moved and seconded to elect Harold Matthews and Greg Gifhorn to the Cemetery Board. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. And we're okay on the, thank you. The ayes have it. The motion is approved, and those two are elected to the Cemetery Board. We'd also like to thank our treasurer, Barb Gerstenecker, for her service to the Cemetery Board and her work on completing the documents that are part of this package, as well as Amanda in the office and then anyone else who might have helped to assemble these documents for us. And we also want to welcome and thank our new treasurer, Robin McLaughlin. Our Cemetery Board groundskeeper continues to be Gerald Walbacher, and you can see in our annual report the activities for our 2022. Well, one thing I failed to mention on there was that Gerald coordinated with the Boy Scouts who meet in the church the placing of flags for Memorial Day at the veterans' grave sites, and also that was Memorial Day and Veterans Day, so just appreciate him doing that. Also going back to the treasurers, also we want to thank Shirley Osselmeyer, because she fills in or is on standby for when our treasurer goes on vacation. Continuing on, we want to move on to the budget. If we go to the back of the packet and work our way in from there, on the back of the page of our annual report is our balance sheet. From last year to the end of last year to the end of 2022, our assets decreased by some $229,000. $260,000 of that decrease was due to our investments. As you might imagine, the markets tanked. So we do transfer roughly $42,000 from our investments into our operating funds each year. So that would account for another portion of that decrease. Looking at our budget for 2023, our transfers would increase to $45,000 from the $42,000 we just mentioned. To give you an idea, we've estimated it'll cost about $65,000 to operate the cemetery for the 2023 year, and that would be pretty much a balanced budget with a $59 surplus at the end of the year. Are there any questions or comments on the Cemetery Board budget proposed budget for 2023? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the 2023 budget. Gretchen Abbott, is there a second? Harold Matthews? Nope. Anyone? Bill Lewis. Got the glasses down. Thanks. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the 2023 budget. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes, and the budget is adopted. I'd like to thank everybody who made this meeting possible, everybody working the sound and video so that it can go out on the internet, all those who have joined on the internet, all of you who have stayed and participated in the meeting. We appreciate everyone's help. Just a reminder, immediately after this meeting, Reverend Shell will be doing a closing prayer, so don't get up and leave right away. With that said, that concludes the activity of our 2023 Cemetery Annual Meeting. We would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mary Lynn Harris. And a second? Joanne Oden. been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you. And Pastor Shell with a closing prayer.
I'm going to invite you all to stand. Maybe stretch a little because we've been sitting a while. And open up your hearts and breathe in deeply. Gracious God, we know we stand on holy ground, and that in standing here present to you and to one another, our hearts resonate with your desires for us. Our hearts speak to one another the language of heart, compassion, grace, and peace. May we go to our homes, to our lunches, to our families, to whatever activities we have this day, recalling the goodness of our time together and your blessings upon us always. Amen.